1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast Soundcheck. Monday show live. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue Podcast. It is the Monday show. It is the Monday after Everton beat Crystal Palace 2-1 with a stoppage time winner. We are live in the Royal Blue studio. I am your host, Ian Croll, and joining me for today's episode to talk all things Everton, we have Chris Beesley. Chris, good mood? How are we?
Yeah, it's part of our echo duties these days, doing an increased amount of work for the Nationals as well, the Reach Nationals, and so I had a big rewrite on my hands yesterday. You know, it was all for the right reasons. Though it's always good if you got to do like some major surgery to your copy after in a positive manner. But yeah, that was keeping me on my toes. So yeah, all good.
Good stuff. We've also got Gav Buckland. Gav, I haven't been on a pod with you for a while. I know you did one with Chris while I was off. Is this the first time you've been back in the studio?
Yeah, I've been away.
You've been away.
The country, I've just been away.
No threats or anything like that against your life.
We
were worried for you for a while, to be fair.
I was on holiday. I didn't have people chasing after me.
You're chasing after them now.
I'm chasing after them. As some of them found out on Saturday. A couple of people protecting their tweets now after I...
A few delete buttons hit, was it?
Oh, wow.
Yes. I was... first one, I think, since we covered the Villa game. I think so.
Okay, so that
What's happened since then?
Yeah, certainly has, yeah. Well, good to have you back on. Cool. Okay, well, today's agenda, obviously no explanation needed, but I will do it anyway. Jack Grealish's stoppage time winner and Everton's 2-1 win over previously unbeaten Crystal Palace. That is today's episode in full for you. As always, give this video a thumbs up, drop us a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support, as always, is greatly appreciated. Get your comments in and get your questions in. We can see them on the screen behind the camera there. So...
Get more mic feed.
No, Mike's Gav is low.
We had Connor was in that seat the other day.
Again,
we had it, didn't we?
Right, we're back. And Mike's Gav is working.
No, right, okay. Mike's Gav?
Gav's mic is working.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Flustered?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
This is live.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Live internet TV.
I tell you what, I wouldn't have wanted to be on the receiving end of that verbal volley that Gav just gave out there. We'll never know.
We'll start again.
Kroll's had the hairdryer treatment off me, you know.
We've asked how Chris is. Gav, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I absolutely made up after yesterday, to be fair. Like a lot of Everton fans. There was something... Chris, in your excellent interviews that he did for the last season at Goodison, he spoke to Henry Winter.
Yes.
And he said something that resonated with me at the time. I thought, I'll wait for that moment.
Okay.
And he said, what they need, Everton need early on at Bramley Moore is a big game, a big result, a big moment to sort of, embed the stadium in the club, like a Goodison type moment. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking that'll have to be a derby win or something like that, but it actually wasn't. It was like yesterday, wasn't it? Because it was unexpected. Palace are a really good team. We were up against it for 70 minutes, and I was thinking back to what Henry said, and I suspect it'd be interesting to see whether a lot of Everton fans think slightly different about Bramley Moore as a result of Hill Dickinson Hill Dickinson today than perhaps what he would have done before the game.
Yeah, I think
it's a big moment.
I think it was a big moment yesterday, and I think we all thought that big moment might have come against West Ham, with it being the first proper Premier League game under the lights. I know we've had Mansfield, but you can't really call that a huge game. The West Ham game, we all go in as that first game under the lights. Let's get the atmosphere going, and it just didn't quite kick into gear, did it? The performance first half was okay. We obviously didn't get the results, and West Ham obviously got themselves back into it. So we only had to wait a couple of days later for it, Chris. So the atmosphere, I still think it's going to need a lot of work, but I think towards the end of the game, Tony mentioned it on the post-match pod yesterday, there was a couple of flashpoints, certainly, which kicked the atmosphere into gear. I still think Alcaraz helped change the game. Iraboom, Beto, the subs helped, but obviously Crystal Palace probably didn't help themselves as well with some of the antics of the players getting bookings, and that just spared the crowd into life.
Exactly. It's what Tony was sat next to me, so we were discussing it at the time. Gav's just alluded to it now, and what Henry Winter was saying, and what you were saying as well. These moments are spontaneous. They don't happen just because it's the first Premier League night game at Hill Dickinson Stadium. It doesn't happen. That was a Sunday early-ish kickoff, but there was a moment, there was a flashpoint, and I talked about it in my verdict. Who knows, maybe getting a bit carried away at the moment, but you possibly could look at it because it's the new stadium, you're finding these new surroundings, almost look at it as a Phil Neville on Cristiano Ronaldo.
I knew you were going to say
yeah.
that then, yeah,
because
absolutely.
I've got my team sheet here, make sure I get these names correct. And the man who's responsible for this, he might have written himself into Everton folklore for the wrong reasons. Jeremy Pino. Now, he was the Palace player who wouldn't go back for the free kick, and James Garner, I almost said something else then, lost his rag with him. He shoved him, he got a booking. Moyes was going mad on the touchline. He gets a yellow card as well. And for me, that was the moment when it shifted. Talk about when they moved to Hill Dickinson Stadium, Moyes had said he wanted to bring the soul of Goodison Park with him. And obviously it's the same people in there, there's more of them. But we used to describe Goodison Park as the grand old lady, but I said she's more belligerent, battle axe, and sweet old grandmother, and that was one of those moments. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and we saw that with the Everton crowd there at that moment. That's where it turned for me. That was the tipping point. Everton had been on the back foot. They should have been outside. Moyes admitted that should have been 2-3-0 down by that point. But no, that's when it turned for me, and that was a huge moment in my eyes. Obviously, the goals came after that, but that's when things that's when it tipped for me, and the change in the mood and the change in momentum. And it could look back on that, in years to come, saying, no, the first days at Hill Dickinson Stadium, and that was the first sort of moment like that where everyone was sort of together, united in their anger, really.
Well, I mean, we're still unbeaten, Gav. I know it's been a bit of a difficult period. Unbeaten at home, sorry, and how much importance do you put that down to staying unbeaten at home? Because even the last couple of games at Goodison, our home form was pretty good under Moyes. So we've kind of
1-13, we've lost at home. Is it something like that?
It's something that Moyes has doubled down on to an extent. Transferred that over.
His home form at Everton managers large has been very good. Certainly in his first spell. I mean, his home form has been very good when he's been relatively successful. West Ham, as well. So his away form occasionally not as good. I think we've had like a reasonably decent fixture list to start with, although Palace are obviously a really good team. And I think sometimes that transition to a new ground can be quite difficult for players, can't it, really? And there's lots of evidence for that. But I don't get the impression that, and I might be wrong here, and I certainly didn't feel like this yesterday, that moving to the ground has unsettled the players. I don't know any
hats off to Dan Meese, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is some of it, but why it's happened is I think the transition from Goodison to Hill Dickinson Stadium has gone well off the pitch. I think it's obviously gone reasonably well with the playing squad, and that's not necessarily been the case with other clubs who've moved grounds in the Premier League era or even before, and so that's been that's been enormously beneficial for us. How that looks at the end of the season, of course, or even at Christmas, is a different kettle of fish, isn't it? But yeah, it's been good. What are we? 2-2, are we? You count the cup games, 3 wins, 2 draws, so 5 games unbeaten. That's a decent start. Just got to get a couple of away points and performances, haven't we, really?
The disappointment stems from we probably should have had more, if we're being totally honest. Certainly against Villa. I can have the West Ham game as a draw, but the Villa game we really should have, you know, we should have took all 3 points in that, because Villa, they've had a poor start. They certainly weren't at the best, and we did have a couple of chances which we really should have capitalised on, and we just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big win yesterday, wasn't it? Because of the next 2 fixtures being Man City away and Spurs at home. I mean, I would have taken a draw yesterday, but I think a draw might have left us looking a bit light on points wise at the end of October, with 2 really difficult fixtures coming up. So I think on that basis it was a vital win. Looking forwards in the table in the next few weeks, obviously can't have Grealish, can't play against Man City, can he, for the start? So it was good to get something yesterday, and the win was a massive bonus, really. Yeah,
and the way it concertinas the table as well, because you think, you know, Palace was, you know, singing, we're going to win the league, you know, only slightly tongue-in-cheek, but, you know, incredible. They would have gone 20 games unbeaten, moved up to second, but instead, Everton have pulled it right back, and they're just a point behind them, like you said.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, Chris, I think Gav was right to an extent in what he was saying before, and in the grand scheme of things, with Palace unbeaten in 19, they're a very good team, and we're not in a great moment. A draw genuinely wouldn't have been a bad result, but City next, Spurs next after the international break. You would go into that game even with the draw against Palace with a little bit of pressure on, thinking you're going to have to pick up points. Now that we've got the 3 points against Palace there, City almost becomes a bit of a free hit. Anything from there is a bonus, and then you can probably go into that Tottenham game now still with the momentum on your back, thinking we could go and beat Tottenham at home.
Yeah, and if you're dividing the season up into sort of chunks as well, because they did so well before the last international break, finished with 3 wins on the trot, you know, and then if they'd not won yesterday, then you'd have gone between international breaks without a single victory. So just kind of keeping that momentum going. They've been very tight, the games, all season. You could have gone either way, you know, as awful as they were at Leeds. It took a debatable penalty to settle the issue. I think the Brighton home game's the only one, isn't it, where there's only been more than a goal in it, either way.
So they missed the penalty, didn't they?
Yeah, so 2-0, and they missed the penalty, so might have been closer. Wolves 3-2, people said Everton obviously should have done better there, but it was a tight game. Couple of draws as well. The Derby defeat, just the 1 goal in it. So again, all the games have been tight this season, so it was a really big moment, right, in terms of, we know Everton were awful in the first half. Praise, you know, hats off to Palace. They played really well. Looked like a team who had that confidence, who, you know, hadn't lost a game for 6 months. And they were on the ropes for an hour. So you're finding a way to win and using the power of the crowd to help you to get there. I think it's a really big moment, and we probably can't underestimate it. Really, just keeps things sweet. It could have been just like you said, going into that fortnight off, and you'd not won since, you know, the end of August. It wouldn't have been great, but
since
it just keeps
Wolves,
things.
It would have been,
so it just sort of keeps them on par, as it were. And if you look at it, it's actually been their best Premier League start for a number of years now, and in decent shape. But, you know, it could have been, you know, it's very close, but just those small margins, and I think it's a big moment.
I mean, the points total's not massive, Gav. Obviously, it's all about the lift and momentum, as Chris has just alluded to, but the difference would have been a defeat would have been in 13th on 8 points. Now we're 8th on 11 points, and we're not far, obviously, off the top as well.
Totally different.
It's not great quality Premier League this season, isn't it? I think that's a general consensus, especially at the top, isn't it? That's why. Speaking of which, I don't think City is a free hit when we go there in a fortnight. I think we're eminently capable of getting something from City. We're not playing Manchester City of the circa 2018-19 vintage, are we?
I mean, I'm not saying go there and just lose.
Yeah. But it's not a free. It's not something we say, it doesn't really matter if we get 2-0 out. You know, as long as we don't get battered. It's
probably
that type of thing, which may have been our mindset in the past. Like last season, I think it's a game that we can get something from. I mean, City are no great shakes, are they? Compared to what they used to be, still a good team. So I wouldn't treat that as just be happy just to get me 2-0 and don't embarrass ourselves. It'd be something, if we don't get something, I'd be disappointed from. To be fair, so this, as Chris said, there's concertina, isn't it? I mean, I think top's only like 62 points a game, gets you right near the top. Where like years gone by, that might get you 6th or 7th. You know, so I think a couple of wins can make an enormous difference. I think the main take from yesterday was, it's to do with Moyes as a manager, and Chris was saying about like all the games have been close. That when we were all there for most of Moyes' all of Moyes in my case first spell in charge. He's a manager who likes to keep games tight. he doesn't win by many. He doesn't lose by many.
No.
You know, and he even in his first spell 11, he very rarely suffers a heavy defeat, Moyes, where they get beat 3-0 or 4. Very rarely. He will
I could probably find a few for you, like.
Yeah, but not as many as what you. Not,
No,
if somebody's had like 1,000
That's probably
Premier
why they
League
stick
matches,
out, don't they? I guess.
You know, and that's because of his. You know, as people say, he's very risk averse on occasions, isn't he? So he very rarely has heavy defeat. He stays in games, and always has done, and that was in his first spell at Everton, and that was a classic case yesterday. And it happened in his first, especially in his first couple of years, Evan, of just staying in the game, and you never know what might happen. And sometimes it works for you, sometimes it doesn't. And it worked for him yesterday, that tactics. There'll be times when he's winning 1-0 and ahead, and he'll put an extra defender on, and they'll equalise in the last minute. That happened loads. 2012-13, his final season.
Well, that's a criticism, isn't it? That
that's a
criticism.
That's. But the other side of the coin on that, when they are getting beat, they're not getting hammered.
Yeah.
And so I think you saw a classic case of his general strategy as a manager working for him yesterday, of just staying in the game, and we saw that a lot in his first spell at Goodison, and we saw it yesterday. You know, helped by some sloppy finishing by Mateta in the second half on a couple of occasions. A good clearance off the line by O'Brien. And it was just a classic Moyes 2000s victory. That
you're on the ropes, but you never get knocked out.
Yeah. And you snatch something from a game that perhaps you didn't need, you know, that you didn't deserve to, even though our second half performance was good. And they tired, didn't he? Obviously, it was just that's just classic Moyes. For all you can give him brickbats on occasions of not really driving home his advantage when he should be doing, and then paying for it. Yeah. On the opposite side of the coin, if you stay in the game, you can get something, and that happened yesterday for me.
Yeah, I mean, I just think he puts a lot of responsibility on the players on the pitch. Certainly, when it's not going right, he tries to let them figure it out for themselves. Sometimes, I mean, Chris, a lot's been made of Moyes and his substitutions, and you know, we can complain, to be fair, that he hasn't made subs earlier on in games when we've either been not playing well or getting beat. But when you look back now, you can look back and go, well, to be fair, he's made changes at half time at times, and it just hasn't worked. You know, the subs in some of the games have literally just proved ineffective. You obviously look at the Wolves game, to name one, but obviously yesterday, the subs that he made, all three, the initial two of Beto and Alcaraz, changed the game, and then Iraboom was fantastic as well.
Had to do, it was important. But he likes a striker swap at half time, though, doesn't he? We've seen that. We've had that a few times in recent weeks.
I was worried when he did that, to be honest. I was really worried, but me fears were quickly allayed when Beto seemed to be on the ball as such.
Yeah. If you look back, actually, you know, we do our the team selector article on the morning of the game, and we pick. People sometimes get the wrong end of the stick. They think we're trying to guess what team Moyes is going to play. No, we're picking our team when we do that, which who we should play. And if you look back, I said Beto and Alcaraz to start. Maybe they wouldn't have had the same impact if they'd have been on from the start, but certainly in that second half, they as they've done. Because the reason I based a lot of my decision on that is because they'd done so well. Last time Everton played Palace back in February, Alcaraz, it was his first start, I think, that game at Selhurst Park, and he'd provided the assist for Beto for the first goal, and then went on to score the winner himself. So they'd done well against Palace last time outside them both to start, and obviously it didn't happen, but they both came on. But like you mentioned, Timo Robenham's a big one, because that was enforced. So, and even when Michael Keane went off, you thought, I was probably just going to bring down either Patterson at Coleman at right back and move O'Brien into the middle. But he didn't. Obviously, put Garner right back, and it was a positive move to bring on a midfielder at that time. And Timo Robenham, it was a bit of a tough time. You know, he did really well pre-season last year and sort of emerged from nowhere. People were saying at the time, it's just a PSR workaround or whatever, because obviously Lewis Dobbin went to Villa around the same time. Did well, impressed Deitch in pre-season and got his chance early last season, but that obviously, if we remember back, it was that awful time when Everton lost 4 under spin, and sort of Timo Robenham lost his place, and then he got injured, and then it was a long way back for him. Used a lot as a substitute by Moyes last season, and then he had a few starts this season and hasn't kind of taken his chance, but he did really well, and obviously crucially won the penalty that got him back in it. So yeah, pretty positive substitutions, and they all played their part.
I mean, we can come on to Iraboom because I think it's worth doing. So I know it was a forced change, but he did do well. Won the penalty, obviously. But in terms of the Beto Alcaraz partnership, Gav, if you want to call it that, that was definitely one of the positives from the back end of last season. Certainly when Moyes came back, he definitely used the both of them to their best ability, and they just seem to, I wouldn't say they have this chemistry, I think that's still going to build up over time, but Beto certainly likes playing with Alcaraz. I think you can tell that. Since this is the first time that we've seen that partnership, from what I can remember, since probably Newcastle away, last home game of the season. So we've come into this new season, we brought in a whole host of new players. Moyes, for me, is picking his best team based on what he thinks is his best team on paper. Now, he's kind of hopefully not stumbled on something, hopefully he's stumbled back on something. We're trying to transition from this, team who doesn't have much of the ball to a team where the emphasis is on us to create stuff. And I still think we're struggling in that sense. And Beto and Alcaraz, I'm not saying that can be like the whole partnership moving forward, but it's certainly given Moyes food for thought, in my point of view.
Yeah, I think Alcaraz, he's a little bit more, I'm trying to think of the right word, he's direct, isn't he? He's direct, and he'll move the ball quickly into the forward positions, perhaps quicker than other players. And you're right, and I think Beto probably appreciates that, and he's he's quite dynamic. I like Alcaraz. In testament to Alcaraz and Iraboom, and they were, of course, part of the team that got beat at Wolves that supporters thought weren't good enough.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I'll say now, I've said it, that I think it was the wrong decision to take Alcaraz.
I thought Alcaraz was our best player in the first half.
He didn't do that.
It was unfortunate.
I thought. And it just shows you some of the players yesterday said, they can't be playing at Wolves, not good enough, And 2 weeks later, you're saying, they changed the game. That was one of my other takes from yesterday. Possibly. But again, we don't know, do we? You can't, when you're starting the game or when you're chasing the game, they're two different scenarios, aren't they? When you're playing at home and away, two different scenarios. So I wouldn't necessarily make a permanent judgment of what I saw in the second half yesterday, because it's because of the circumstances, isn't it? And as Chris was saying, great atmosphere, crowd on it, So that's different, say, than if you're going away to Man City or something in a fortnight's time. But yeah, he does. I like Alcaraz, as I say. I think Moyes is, one of his marks against him this season, he's not had enough minutes. I didn't really understand him playing, but was it 4 minutes he got on the derby, was it something like that? Not that, I don't think that was good, and he should be getting more minutes. Alcaraz certainly. As for Beto, as I'm saying this on Saturday, do you think that Beto and Barry are just being alternating until one of them scores, and then he'll keep that person in the team for a few matches? I know.
Next goal wins.
Yeah, next goal wins. Yeah, absolutely. But it's just that's what he's doing.
It's not a way to manage your two forward line, is it? Because confidence is going to be shot.
I think I sort of get that. I mean, when was the last time when Everton forward did more than, say, 80 minutes in a game?
Look, ideally from now on, whether Beto is the man to take us forward following on from next season, however, he's going to have to be the man for this season, at least for the next couple of months.
Unless we buy somebody in January.
Well, we might. I don't know. I'd be very surprised if we do. Beto's got to take on the responsibility now of, obviously, performances, scoring goals, but it means playing to his strengths. And I said this yesterday, you can't just write players off when they have a bad game, because we're going to rely on these players throughout the season. I think Barry has come in, and Moyes has already said he's probably not ready to be starting games.
That's quite obvious, isn't it?
So, well, if that's the case, then the pressure's too much on him to be expecting results straight away. So we need Beto to take up that mantle effectively. But if you're not going to play to his strengths, then both strikers' confidence is just going to be completely.
What do you think of Beto's strengths?
Look, I think he came out yesterday fighting with a point to prove, and I think he does like to play with Alcaraz. I think that's for sure. I think he's got pace. I think he likes to play in the shoulder of the last defender, and I think he just needs space in front of him to run onto.
He can run behind and stuff. It's ruffling up the ruffling up. Is that a word? Ruffling up the opposition. Ruffling up the opposition defence. I think he can settle players, and he likes the ball played and behind the back line to run onto.
Match of the Day showed a lot of clips of that yesterday of Beto running into space, of getting
Oh,
the
Beto
ball.
doing that to the south
he
stand.
did. If you look, that is his game. Now, previously we were giving the ball to the wingers and we were getting closer to the opposition penalty box and we were getting crosses into the box and effectively just running out of space. Ironically, yesterday that's kind of how the goal happened, wasn't it? From the cross,
quite decent in the air, Beto. When given the right moment, he can leap.
Should have probably buried the chance where they scored on the rebound. But,
he did everything right there, though, didn't he? He headed it down. It was just good.
He's lunging forward as well.
By the Palace goalkeeper, but he's decent in the air. But he's still limited, and it's still hurting us, isn't it? As much as what we won yesterday, it's hurting us, isn't it? The striking position at the moment.
What struck me actually about Tierno Barry yesterday, and I was talking to Tony Scott about it. When he was at Villarreal, they're one of the few teams who play with two up top. I mean, a generation ago, everyone was two up top. Everyone was 4-4-2 more or less. Very seldom you have a strike partnership these days. But Barry was playing as part of a two at Villarreal, and I noticed he often drifts wide, and obviously he played part in the goal against Brighton, probably the one big sort of moment he's had this season. But
I did say, could he play on the wing? A question.
I don't know if he's going to be effective there, but he should. If he's playing as the one striker, he needs to be in that danger zone, and too often he's sort of drifting out wide. And I suppose he can do that if he's playing as a two, but. With Everton, it's very much the one up front.
Just not wide's okay if you've got like your deep line players who move into that space, But sometimes, as you say, no, but they don't do that, and he's on the wing. I made that point when he signed that I thought one of the issues for him was moving, especially being a young lad. He was playing with Jose Perez, wasn't he, at Villarreal?
Right.
It's in two completely different roles, as you say, playing as a striker in a duo compared to playing as a lone striker, and I thought I said that I thought that might give him some issues for him, as well as as part of the transition. That's possibly the case, but he hasn't looked. He looks like a fish out. I mean, let's be honest. He looks a little bit like a fish out of water at the moment, doesn't he, Barry? If you're being candid.
I don't want to be too overcritical on him because all these young players. No, I know we're not. Yeah. We're just kind of talking, aren't we? I just think he's not good enough to lead and strong enough to lead the line at the moment. I mean, there was a chance in the first half, wasn't it, where he wasn't through on goal as such, but he got the ball played into him.
Tried to dribble past
and Gay he didn't even put up a fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Gay devoured him there
exactly.
At that moment, didn't he?
That it's weak, effectively, and that's where over time, hopefully, that is going to come in his game. He's built up on that. You get more power, you get more speed and more strength. But to judge him right now, when the manager's already said he's not good enough, it's a bit. I think that's on Moyes, to be honest. You've got to, and the recruitment team as well. To be fair, obviously we can go off on a bit of a tangent and say what we should have done in the transfer window, but it just goes back to now. Well, we've got to maybe put a bit more faith in Beto, at least for the time being.
It's just stretching the point, isn't it? Really, does it concern us that the fact that we're talking about our transfer strategy? Yeah, we had £60 million worth of players substituted at the half time yesterday.
I think Diblin's a bit of an issue, isn't it, at this moment in time? Because he doesn't really get in the team based on that performance now. I know he started yesterday, but is he the best of the? Can he get in that front three on paper, in your opinion?
My silence speaks volumes there, doesn't it, really? Because I don't think he is at the moment, is he?
Well, Alcaraz did much more, didn't he? Because obviously you got the situation at City now, aren't you? Grealish is going to come out, but Keenan Dewsbury Hall is going to be available again.
Yeah.
So 1 in, 1 out, as it were. But I mean, based on yesterday, Alcaraz did much more than Diblin. But it's where do you put them all?
Without being cynical, you just know Moyes will play Alcaraz on the wing against City, and Dewsbury will come in as the number 10, and then Dyer probably go on the left.
Yeah,
I guarantee that is what happens, and that is not what won us the game yesterday.
Yeah, but it's played different. It goes back to what I was saying before. You can't judge future team selection on 30 minutes when you're chasing the game against a team that's tired.
But Alcaraz is the most natural number 10 that we've got in the team.
Yeah, I don't even think he's a number 10, is he, Alcaraz? He's more like a deep line midfielder who plays forward.
He definitely can play deeper.
Oh yeah, he played his first game. I think it was at Bournemouth in the FA Cup. He was playing in centre mid, wasn't he? Yeah, and as a natural fit in terms of the midfield, he is possibly, you know, if you play Garner and Gay, say Alcaraz as the 10, for want of a better phrase, is probably the one that will strengthen the midfield the most as a trio, as it were, but also give you an attacking threat. Because people say, we've had this, I think it came up in the comments there, hasn't it, about Dewsbury Hall, about him playing him as a 2. We've had this conversation before on the pod, haven't we, about playing, say, with James Garner. But I don't think Dewsbury Hall's strong enough on the ball. You know, to play there. I think he can get moved off the ball.
That's where he's made his name for Leicester.
Yeah, I'm just saying what I've seen this season. I think he gets shoved off the ball too easy on occasions, which is not ideal if you're playing as a deep line midfielder. So I get, but going back to your point, yeah, you would like to think that Moyes doesn't, revert to type as he does on occasions and play Alcaraz wide right. He's got to play him through the middle, hasn't
he? Sticking with the midfield, Chris, in terms of the deeper players, in terms of Garner and Gay, I don't think Gay's covered himself in much glory over the past game or two. I don't think he was great yesterday. So I think there is options there to not experiment as such, but just try to play to your strengths a little bit more. I mean, we can come on to it as well, but I thought James Garner did very well at right back when
Keane went off.
Yeah, when Keane went off, and so there's a solution for bringing Kane and Dewsbury Hall a little bit deeper.
What playing Garner at right back? You mean again?
I still think he's our best right back at the club, if I'm being totally honest.
Wow. But who knows? We might even have Jared back, and all kinds you might be able to do it at home. In terms of mixing it up, I don't know about Dewsbury Hall deeper away at Man City. I'm not sure. There might be certain games you can do it. But
yeah, I agree.
But the midfield looked weak yesterday, though. Palace were exploiting so many holes.
Well, given what happened yesterday, I know Alcaraz was playing as the 10, but I just wonder at City, is he going to put Dewsbury Hall back as the 10 the way he's been all season, more or less? Yeah. Keep and die on the right wing, because to be fair, he put that good cross in at the end for the winner, and just put Alcaraz on the left of him cutting inside. Maybe that's how he goes about it. That seems to be the most natural solution. But yeah, there might be times, I certainly think there could be times this season where Dewsbury Hall play deeper, but I'm not sure whether Man City away is the first one to go with that.
To be fair, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I just don't think, where'd you fit Dewsbury Hall into that team now based on yesterday's performance? He started off well as Evan Cree, but there has been games where you think he hasn't had the impact in that position that you want him to. And if you look at his time at Leicester, he is much better at advancing the ball forward from deep and making up that ground with the ball.
Yeah, that's right. But it's when you've not got the ball, isn't it?
No, that's fair enough.
And if you're playing there, you've got to sense danger and be strong, haven't you? And I don't think that's his natural game, to be honest with you. And as Chris said, I certainly wouldn't play with that formation at Manchester City. Think about, we've not mentioned Boone as part of this conversation, have we?
No.
And talking about the two.
Took a chance yesterday.
Well, I mean, he's a funny player, Boone, and he can be. There's moments of like we saw yesterday, because not only did he win the penalty, it was his smart move on the halfway line that started the whole move going, wasn't it? He turned on the halfway line and drove forward. I think he might have passed it to Mikalenko, then carried on running. And he's somebody who can provide moments of quality, but at the same time, banality as well. Like that shot he had at Wolves, remember, in the 2-0 defeat. And I thought he played really well when he came on for ended up being about 35 minutes. He was on the pitch for yesterday, wasn't it? I thought he did really well. He gives us something slightly different, but whether you would trust him, I'm not sure. But Garner Gay is a little bit off the pace, isn't he? As you're saying, I'm just wondering.
Well, Adam Wharton was running in the show yesterday.
He could run the show against the top midfielder, though. Adam Wharton couldn't. He's really, to be fair.
Grealish mentioned it in his interview, didn't he?
So nothing we're talking about. I mean, people saying, well, why didn't Everton go in for him? Because it was quite obvious. I understand people at Blackburn Rovers could see very early on that he was going to be something special, and people saying, well, why didn't Everton go in for him? But Everton weren't a position of strength at the time, either on the pitch or in terms of the finances. But maybe the bigger question is, why didn't any of the Northwest clubs go in for, this huge talent was on the doorstep, and he's gone down to Palace, they put the money where the mouth is, and I mean, it's incredible, really. He needs to find a place in Thomas Tuchel's squad at the moment.
Maybe his fitness is just coming back from injury, isn't he, really? Maybe his fitness is worked against him, but I wouldn't necessarily judge our midfield yesterday against one, because I think he's absolutely, he's top class, isn't he? and even when he was not 100% fit yesterday. And Palace are a really good team, but Garner Gay a little bit off the pace at the moment. May give Moyes a question to answer in terms of selection, especially coming off the back of a international break as well.
I mean, you probably know more than us, Chris, but we've got Roll to factor back into things, hopefully, when he gets fit. I know he made a brief cameo against Villa, looked okay, but he could provide an answer to that, what we're talking about.
Yeah, I know Dave Moyes really rates him highly. I think there's a bit of frustration within Finch Farm about how long it's taken him to get back fit. So hopefully he's going to be there by the time that they get back up and running in a couple of weeks' time. Not seen much of him, but by all accounts, he has impressed, and I think there's a big future ahead of him. He would give you something different, because he's not just he's big. He's a unit. The lad can play, but it's certainly, again, it's another one to throw into the mix. So hopefully he's back.
What role does Moyes think?
Roll for Rob.
His name's got like a million puns, doesn't it? Really, could make of it. What I read somewhere that he doesn't necessarily see him as a defensive midfield, more as an 8.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, because I think he was asked. He certainly doesn't think he's like for somebody like Fellaini, who was he was an even bigger unit. So. Yeah, I think that's a fair shout, and I know he's very highly rated with the German FA as well. They think there's a big future for him. He obviously played for the under, like Voltermader, who's gone to Newcastle, and obviously Tierno Barry, who's playing in that European under 21s this summer. I don't think he's played in the senior side yet, but I think they see a big future for him. So it'd be an interesting one, because there's an obligation to buy, aren't there? I'm not too sure what the finer details are, and that one, but you'd imagine he'd be sticking around. So I think you're probably right. They probably just see him more as an 8.
I think Moyes said that, but what we're talking about really is more the defensive side of the midfield, aren't we? Really, but it's not. We have got a few options, haven't we? Really, in the sense of the park and behind the striker at the moment. It's just the lack of options of fullback and striker are making themselves known, aren't they?
I think that's the thing. So if we were to get everyone fit in the midfield, and like you've just actually mentioned there, Gav was struggling. Yeah, to an extent, certainly on the right side anyway, with O'Brien. Fair play to him. He's playing out of position, but he certainly looked a bit more comfortable in that centre-back position yesterday. Would you really not consider putting James Garner back out as a right full-back if everyone was fit and you knew that we could man that midfield with a Roll, with a Gay or a Kiernan Dewsbury all a little bit deeper?
He's been one of our best players this season, hasn't he, Garner? You get down players, my experience is, all of a sudden he'll just have like a bit of a leap forward, in the space of a summer where they come back look at different players, maybe put a bit more muscle on, that type of thing, trains really hard, and he's one of them, isn't he? And on that basis, I think you play your best players in their best positions, don't you? So if Garner's been one of our best players, his best position is a midfielder, isn't it? So you play him there, and then you just have to handle the right back position. O'Brien is, I think I said before on the pod, it's different to last season with O'Brien, isn't it? It's like last season he wants to force himself into the team. He gets a gig at right back, but he wants to play centre half, doesn't he? That's his natural position. So he comes in and he's got something to prove, hasn't he, at right back, and he ends up being centre half and does well at the end of last season. It then becomes just a like burst in your balloon, and it says, "Oh, sorry mate, we're putting you at right back now." It can affect your psychology, can't you, and your hunger a little bit. And you're probably a little bit browned off, aren't you? Understandably so. And I suspect that's a little bit with O'Brien at the moment, and that's why he's maybe not performing at the same level as what he was at right back last season. Also, as well, last year. And to be fair about this, and people criticize, like Blomqvist, what was his name?
Jesper Blomqvist.
No, he was the
the one. Jesper
Lindstrom, yeah. He provided a lot of cover for him last year, didn't he? But we've had, I think one of the things where you can think maybe NJ's not as happy playing out wide right, as he's not sacking back as much this season playing wide right, and I think he's been exposed a little bit more than last season, O'Brien, and that's affected his game. But going back to your question now, I'd play Garner centre mid and take it from there. I don't think you play one of your better players in a position that is not their natural role.
I think O'Brien being thrust into that right back position at the time was a bit of an unknown entity, wasn't it? First time Moyes did it was against Spurs, if I remember. I know it was kind of like when we had the ball, it was like 4 at the back. When we didn't have the ball, it was a 5 at the back with Lindstrom as the right back. But in all fairness, Chris, with the injury to Keane, which we don't know the extent of, hopefully he's fine.
Yeah, I asked David Moyes about that, and he was a bit non-committal, really. So I don't know.
They're always a bit non-committal with these injury lengths at this moment in time.
Well, sometimes they don't know.
They honestly don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough.
His hand could be forced anyway.
Yeah.
If Keane is unfit for City, O'Brien would be naturally the one to go in there, and Garner could be pushed out to the right hand side. When I say pushed out, that's like a detrimental thing to say. It's not. I still think at this moment in time, Garner is probably our best right back. I think he clearly doesn't fancy Patterson, and we know Coleman's capabilities as well. Yeah,
it's a curious one because they've not addressed the right back issue of the day. They tried to get Kenny Tete this summer, didn't happen. So O'Brien remains there. In terms of, I'm a bit with Gav. I think that if he wants to play in the middle, he sees that as his natural role, and he's doing well there. But for the team, I mean, we've seen poor old James Garner's having to be. He's played left back more often than right back this season, and he's certainly not a left back. But a lot of people think that he can do a more sustained job at right back. But it's just, what do you lose from him in the middle? So it's probably on Everton for the fact that they just haven't addressed that issue for so long now. As you know, Seamus Coleman is the best right back of modern times, but we've known the end is coming for him for a while now, and good old Seamus still hanging on in there, isn't he? He's on the cusp of overhauling Dixie Dean and Leon Osman, getting himself in the all-time top 10 for appearances. But we know, it's I don't know. You're hoping it's quality over quantity for Seamus these days, and he's another one who obviously had to fill in at left back for shout of water at Wolves. But yeah, I know James Garner can do a job there, and a lot of people. I think Joe Thomas, who's obviously he's not with us. He's just away this week. He likes James Garner at right back. He thinks he can do a job there, but I think the player himself feels more comfortable in a bit, and he can do a job there. And I like to see him in the middle personally, but maybe there'll be times when he will have to go out there.
Yeah. Before we come on to some comments, might as well talk about the winner, Jack Grealish. Right. Obviously taking on board some of Moyes' instructions to shoot a little bit more, Gav.
Some of my instructions, actually, to be fair.
No, but to be fair, though, despite the goal, it was quite apparent because he was
right early on.
Absolutely,
he said this 3 weeks ago. And I got, as you well know, heavily abused.
So are you gonna keep your counsel, Gav, or are you gonna brag?
I'm not going to brag anything. I don't need to. I've not got a problem getting stick about opinions and somebody say, I disagree with their Gav because blah blah blah. But I've got a problem with anything on social media. People just abuse you, quite badly, and I've got a lot of abuse. And it turns out that I was right all along, as Brian Clough once said memorably. And which, as I said on Saturday, is very rare for me. But no, and I think it's quite obvious. That's what I said the other week, isn't it? I was saying to Connor outside there, I know what Moyes is like as a manager, but he's been 20 odd years. He's very regimented, isn't he? And stuff like that. So if he sees a player who's not shooting when he should be doing, and is overplaying a little bit, I know Moyes' brain, how he operates, he will address that pretty quickly. And I said that a few weeks ago. And he obviously has done, and you saw that perfectly yesterday in the opening 10 minutes. He come running and had the shot, where previously Jack was holding on to the ball too long, and and what happens then is you end up getting fouled if you end up hold up, and that's one other thing. I'm not sure whether the foul count against Grealish yesterday was as big as other matches purely because he was getting into the ball quicker and being a bit more direct.
He tried to rough him up a lot.
Yeah, but was saying he wasn't as apparent yesterday, and he looked far more effective for it yesterday, and credit to him. A couple of things, getting in the box at the end, and just you're taking a gamble there, aren't you?
Yeah, and obviously right back puts it onto his foot.
And I'd like to haven't been told to be more direct and shoot. The goal he scores comes off a deflection, but that was his good playing experience. And another good thing about Grealish yesterday at the end is you could see his experience. There was a couple of times, wasn't it, in the last few minutes, where he just got the ball and hooked it into the corner behind their fullback. Which is just using your experience there on you. And I looked a far better play for it, far more of a threat than what he has done. And I think he benefited overall. And I thought he a lot of the players had a much better second half. It was interesting to see. Did you see match of the day last night? They had his touch map in the first half and the second half.
The touch
map in the second half is a lot more in the inside left position in around the area than playing too deep in the first half. And yeah, and I thought he played really well in the second half, and he earned a good look. But it wasn't really good luck. That's just good attacking space and taking the gamble. It's just good forward play, isn't it? And he got his deserved rewards.
I think one of the problems that we're finding with Grealish, even though he's obviously a fantastic talent, he got the winner for us yesterday, Chris, opposition teams are sometimes not just doubling up on him, tripling up on him, and we just haven't been able to exploit ways of finding that extra space when he's got the ball. And I think that's been part of the frustration, not just with some fans, but with himself and Moyes as well. I think it still happened yesterday. I think there was one time where he got the ball in the wing and there was about 2 or 3 Palace players around him. It's like, what's he meant to do? You know, other players are going to have to bring themselves into the game here and create space. So we have got our talent on our hands. He's obviously still going to have to be managed properly. I think did Moyes mention in his press conference that he's been playing with a bit of a knock as well. So we need to be careful on that. We can't just run him into the ground. We've got to obviously use his time wisely, his minutes wisely, use other players and let Moyes trust those other players as well. But overall, you know, you've got to say it's been positive with Jack, hasn't it? Yeah,
it's been. I think it's just a huge lift. It was always he's a marquee signing, isn't he? And it was always going to be just all the attention. You know, he's the first £100 million English footballer. And all that's gone on at City, the great success there he's had, and then obviously finds himself surplus to requirements in the summer. So it was always going to raise Everton's profile. But while it's a marquee signing, it's certainly not a vanity signing. He's not come here and speaking to Michael Ball earlier for his column, and he said, you know, could have swanned around. I don't think that was ever Jack's intention. I think one of his big intentions, and I'm not sure if he's going to get there, is to get in that World Cup squad. That's, I think, you know, he realised he's just turned 30 years old. This is probably his last chance to go to the World Cup. He did actually really well in the last World Cup for England, made some big contributions. I seem to remember him playing quite a lot for them in Qatar. But yeah, he wants to get back in that England squad. He's got a point to prove. I think he just wants to be loved again. He's the sort of the player, you know, heart on his sleeve. We know what he's like off the field as well. Big character, good with the kids, stuff like that with the fans. And I think that it's actually, in many ways, it's a really ideal move for him. I wouldn't say, I'm going to use the word perfect, but it's an ideal move for him. And, you know, the Evertonians have embraced him. They just want to have that big talent in the squad. And he's bringing it, as we say, there are issues in terms of, compared to City, where he's got all those other world-class players around him, he is the main man, and teams doubling, tripling up on him, and Everton have got to exploit those spaces that creates. But yeah, absolutely made up for him to get the first goal. And you know, he's never been prolific. I think he had the one season at Villa where he got to double figures in all comps, but more of a creator. But you know, why not take it on? You know, he's the main man at Everton, get a few goals in the locker, because the way Everton play. And we've talked, you know, to a blue in the face about the strikers and all the problems there up top. Maybe it is going to be, like we said, the classic Moyes, where the attacking midfielders need to chip in, and we've seen many more from Jack. I certainly think, like the fans, he enjoyed that moment yesterday.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Chris has just kind of alluded to it there. When you play for Manchester City, obviously this modern day Manchester City side, they've got match winners all over the pitch. So even though the pressure's on, like a Jack Grealish who would play for City, he'll know in his own mind, well, we've got a match winner there, we've got a match winner there. Now he's come to an Everton team who are in transition, that Moyes is obviously building. He is the main man, so the responsibility, probably in his own mind, is on him to make things happen. So it's about dealing with that pressure. And the other question, I guess, is, do you see him as the number 10 moving forward as well? No.
I don't think that weakens the midfield.
He seems pretty
I don't think a 10. I don't think a 10.
He seems stuck on him on the left, doesn't he, Moyes?
Yeah. Why isn't Njai the main man? He was the main man last year. That's right. Cards on the table. When he signed, you know, I said that I disagree with him. One of the reasons was £12 million, with is a lot of money when we've got places to fill elsewhere. And also, like, you got Njai, who was our best player last year, best outfield player. Why would you want to move him, you know, to somewhere else on the pitch when you could use the 12 million better to strengthen that area? And so yeah, Jack's played well, hasn't he? In and out, like a couple of games, but it's great. Yeah, okay, great that Jack's played well, but it's the impact on Njai. You know, is he as effective as what he was last season? Well, quite obvious. even though he scored his third goal yesterday, wasn't it? He isn't, and you always have to have that in the back of your mind, haven't you? It's whether it weakens the team elsewhere, and I think it has. Or a player elsewhere. It was our player of the year last year.
He said himself he doesn't feel necessarily as comfortable on the right as he would on the left.
It's obvious, isn't it? Really, even though he sets up the goal. So you've got to have a look at like Grealish signing, and I totally get on board what Chris say. You can't look and just say, "Oh, Jack's coming, he's played really well." Blah blah blah. You have to see the impact of it on the overall starting 11 as a whole compared to last year. And you've got to ask your question: is our right wing and left wing option better this year, with Grealish on the left and NJ on the right, than what it was last season when we had NJ on the left and somebody like Lindstrom or Harrison on the right, where NJ was quite clearly our best player, and Lindstrom and Harrison also provided cover to O'Brien. You've got to ask your question: is that worth £12 million, paying out £12 million for the season? That's my question, really. And you can't, and Jack's done well, but you've got to have a look at the transfer and basis of the team, hasn't it? Really, I think
we've said. I know what you're trying to say. I think that obviously Grealish is the new component within that, isn't he? Far better than what a Harrison or a Lindstrom could offer.
But better than NJ from last season.
Well, obviously, listen, time will tell. What I've said, and I've been quite vocal on it.
Yeah.
Is that the team looks disjointed and it looks unbalanced, and that is because Moyes has swapped things around and he's obviously accommodated Grealish for him.
And that's what you've got to look at, because like I said, when I said about one sign Grealish, because I didn't like Grealish or didn't think he was good enough or whatever. It's the impact on the team and the amount of money that it's like renting a house alone, isn't it? You get nothing at the end of your 12 million quid. You haven't got. You're not paying £12 million for a player where you can sell on.
No.
It's a difference between renting a house and buying a house. Renting a house, you get nothing at the end. And I had an issue on that aspect of the deal and how it impacts on the team. And I still think that's still there.
I think, sorry, going to interrupt you. Robbo says, I think you're overthinking this £12 million. I think you're overthinking this. £12 million for one season has transformed the team.
Really? Jack's played well. Are we massively different to last season under Moyes?
I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
I think it's obviously the transition, is it, to be more of a ball playing team than they were last season. I've seen, like last week, I was concerned about with their identity, and I guess those sort of issues are still there. I would say, how do you quantify these things? But in terms of, I certainly think that they're better. Element Diet, it's unfortunate for him, isn't it? He said he's probably better on the left cutting side than he is on the right. And again, like a few players like Jake O'Brien, he's having to do a role for the team. But I think as a partnership, they're better than having Harrison and Lindstrom on the right, because I think they were both very much under par.
I think that might change if we had a good right back. By the way, the balance might be better. I'm saying I don't think the balance on the right is the same this year as last year, and we've lost that because we brought Grealish in. That might actually change if we bring a good right back in, rather than O'Brien, where you've strengthened the right-hand side, and then we have got that balance. But as it stands at the moment, I certainly don't think there's a transformation to last season. We may have a little bit more in front of behind the striker, but we've only scored 10 goals in 9 goals in 7 games or something like that, compared to last season.
Check for you.
Is it 10 goals in 7 games?
I think that what is the most ironic thing for me, and this is only based on the 45 minutes of yesterday, and there's a lot of mitigating factors for why we ended up winning the game. A lot of positives from our end, but obviously Palace did tire after playing on Thursday. But the ironic thing is that Moyes, in this transformation that we're trying to put on the team, Moyes kind of reverted back to what worked well last season with Alcaraz and Beto. I'm not just putting it all down to that. There was, like I said, a lot of mitigating factors, but I just think sometimes you need to walk before you can run.
Absolutely.
Grealish is obviously not just a good addition, he's a fantastic addition to what we've got. I don't disagree with you about the balance of the team. I think that is apparent, and it has been apparent.
What's our points per game this season? What's 11 divided by 7?
Oh, Gav, I'm trying to host here. I'm not doing maths.
No, I'm just saying, we're saying transformation. Well,
we've had our best start.
Okay.
We've had our best start.
But the question is transformation this season to last season. Our points per game this season is what 11 divided by 7 is what 1.5 points per game. What was for Moyes last season when he came into January to May? What was our points per game total?
I don't know. I really don't know.
My guess.
If you're going to ask these questions, come with the answers.
My guess, it'll be around 1.5 points per game, exactly the same as this season.
Okay, well, roughly we were 8th, and we were running 9th after 19 games last season.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying about Moyes last season from January to May, it was around 1.5 points per game. But I haven't played a lot more games than this year, and the fixture list has been quite kind to us so far this year. But 1.5 points per game last season from January to May, 1.5 points per game this season after 7 games. Yeah. So what my question is, where's the transformation
within the team? Well, I don't think there's been a massive transformation, has there? Really, obviously Grealish and Kane and Dewsbury all have been the two key players that have made things happen within the Wolves game and the Brighton game. I think James Garner as well.
Yeah, I get that, but and again,
I don't think it's necessarily more attractive.
Yeah, maybe not more. Maybe up in the final third. But when we say transformation, I created that. Where's the transformation?
Okay, yeah, I'll comment here. We've gone off on a good debate, which is fine. I do want to read some of the comments out. So the Blues have said, we are different this season because we've gone from a direct team to one of the least direct in the league.
I don't know about that. I'm not seeing the stats. And I'm not comparing Grealish to Harrison Linson, by the way.
If anything, no, I'll agree with that. And I think it's probably been a little bit more detrimental. Yeah, it's been detrimental to the striker, being less direct.
Yeah, possibly. But it's as I say, I've not got a problem like Grealish as a player. Absolutely, it's the 12. It was the 12 million upfront cost, whatever, with nothing at the end, and having to move our best player last year to another position where he's clearly not as comfortable. So whatever the benefits you get from Grealish, you have to understand the negative impacts elsewhere in the team.
Why would you not play Grealish as the number 10 then? If you think
I think it weakens our midfield, because I don't think you can see Alcaraz can drop back on, even Dewsbury Hall, let's say, but a Jack, I'm not sure at 30s possibly will be able to do that in terms of being able to be stronger in the middle.
Okay, we'll go.
It's just an interesting debate.
No, it is.
And Jack's been, he's had a good start, and absolutely, but the way you. And it goes back to his purchase. The way I look at the signing of him is you have to look at the impact overall on the team in terms of the loan cost and what it means for moving your best player last year, clearly our best outfielder last year anyway, to another part of the pitch where he's not as comfortable. I don't think that's an unreasonable statement.
I don't disagree too much. Yeah, well, I've said so many times that, look, one defeat or one win shouldn't be either the end of the world or the best thing that's ever happened. Even yesterday, I'm not going to be going right after that win. We've got a perfectly balanced team. We haven't had a perfectly balanced team since day one, even with wins against Wolves and Brighton. What my concern moving forward now is for the manager to recognise the, not issues, but maybe solutions that are in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be difficult because we're playing Manchester City next, Chris. So you would expect Moyes to field a team that would be. He would look at Manchester City's team and go, right, we're going to do this here and we're going to do that there, rather than say, right, we're going to pick this team based on what we think is going to win the game. That's how I would see Moyes picking that team. But obviously, we've got a couple of issues with Grealish being unable to play.
We just talked about Jack Grealish and he can't play in that game.
Yeah.
So I would. Yeah. It just kind of goes back to what I was saying. I'd be a little bit disappointed now if Alcaraz is just thrust onto the wing. Even if he gets a game, he might not even get a game. If he was thrust onto the wing after that performance, shows that is his most natural position in the middle of the park. But then it's what you do with Kane and Dewsbury Hall, because you kind of agree. You kind of agree that you both agree that he wouldn't be as strong in that position, where I kind of disagree with that.
Yeah, to be fair to David Moyes, he always had a decent record at City and at Everton. Obviously City have been the dominant force in English football for a number of years now, and he's only just sort of fallen off from that a year or so ago with Liverpool coming back. But I don't know what the stats are in terms of since they last beat City. It's been a long, long time, isn't it? And obviously, even though David Moyes, ironically, was the one who came up with the taking a knife to a gunfight, he used to have the Indian sign over City for a long time. So as much as we sort of harp on about those games, Moyes, he never won it. United,
he had a great
Liverpool,
record at
Chelsea
City,
and
didn't he?
Arsenal.
Yeah.
He had a decent old record at City, of course, and I think he riled Roberto Mancini enough. And, do you remember that one when they had the spat on the touchline? So who knows? David Moyes might just be able to work a bit of Moyesy magic for that one. And as Gav said, they're maybe not what they were. I mean, you're certainly not going to underestimate them. No. Haaland back among, got the goal yesterday. I mean, Rodri, interestingly, did he go off? He's a bit of a nemesis for Everton, given his, the basketball he got away with there a bit at Goodison Park a few years ago. So, it maybe is that I expect Dewsbury Hall will play, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't go straight back in. Maybe that's marker down for him. Alcaraz has done well in the number 10. What I would imagine happens at the fortnight before the game plays now, I'd imagine he would play Alcaraz wide. I'd imagine, because I'd think Alcaraz comes in on the left for Grealish. Diblin loses his place because Ndai goes back onto the right and Dewsbury Hall as the 10, as it were. That's how 2 weeks before the game, that's how I'd imagine it will end up being.
Okay, some comments very quickly. So David Hollingsworth says, Charlie has to start against City. Whatever changes are needed, need to make that happen. KD75, Alcaraz must be getting some game time now. He affects the game.
Yeah.
He did it last season. His link-up play last season with Beto can also be a major influence on Beto.
I think he does start, but if you're asking me what I predict's going to happen, I probably think with Grealish out, I think Moyes ends up playing him wide left.
Yeah. Hey,
I mean, he could play him on the right and put and Ndai back on the left. But do you remember, he's not really... It was Leeds that he played on the opening night of the season. He was born on the right wing, so...
Yeah. Hey Ho Ted says it was nice to see proactive use of the bench.
Yeah, Moyes has had criticism this season, but he got him right yesterday. I hope that Palace would tie, but I thought his substitutions were good and all the ones who came on did well.
Sorry, someone's just asked, is Grealish blocked from playing against Man City? Yeah, he's on loan from City. No Premier League player can play against their parent club.
Yeah. Final comment from Gaspipe says, Ndai's cross to Beto was as sweet as you like. Great balance.
Moyes name checked him for that. He said to be fair, he was being asked about the winner, and he actually made a point of highlighting Ndai's cross from a very tight position, not any space at all to work in. Any
final thoughts before we go? All good, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I see it's the international break, but an historic moment coming up next weekend in that Everton women playing at Hill Dickinson Stadium. Every team is obliged to have at least one game. So that's the reason, obviously they made a big thing about them coming to Goodison Park, but they've all got to play at least one in what is the main stadium for the men's team. And they're hoping to get a few people down there, with it being the international break. Still a lot of people who maybe haven't been to Hill Dickinson Stadium yet. Opportunity for them next week, and they're playing Manchester United in the Women's Super League. Okay, that is all for today's show. We should be back on Wednesday, even though it is the international break. We will endeavour to bring you a show Wednesday and Friday. Please remember to give us a like and subscribe, and drop us some 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify. Most importantly, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your week. I've been Ian Croll with Gav Buckland and Chris Beesley, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.